Design inspiration, real-life makeovers, and the latest in pop culture. This is the Uploft Interior Design Podcast with Betsy Helmuth.
Hey there, how's it going? I am loving summer. I'm basically a glorified school bus for my children, taking them to and from, waking up way earlier than I ever do during the school year because I don't wake up with my children. They just take the bus on their own. And my toddler is on big kid schedule, so she goes to bed at 11 and wakes up at 10. So this is a whole new world for me, running everybody to camp, making sure everybody has something to do besides just be on their phones all day. I'm exhausted. But also, I'm super busy at work, super busy in life. I'm excited to give you a glimpse into the clients that I'm working on right now. And as you know, I'm also training someone. She shadowed me with another client today. So I'm excited to get into a few more of her questions because she is such a great pupil. I've trained a lot of different people to be interior designers, and this one is Cracker Jack. She's always doing her homework. Even the designers who work for me, they go through the Uploft Interior Design Academy. As you guys who are listening know, I've made that accessible to everyone. Basically, it is a fast track program that you can take on your own time, at your own speed, that teaches you everything that you need to know to take interior design clients with confidence. Now, these are people who are shopping for retail residential furniture. If you're looking to do whole house flips or major renovations, this course is not the one for you. But if you're looking to take interior design clients who want to refresh their living room, who want to fully furnish their new apartment, who want to take their parents' space and transform it into a new space for themselves, like I was doing last week for a client, well, this is the program for you. Because not only do I know that it works because I've seen it work with lots of my academy students, not only throughout the United States, but also internationally. We have students from New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, Canada, and of course, the United States. But also because I use this program internally, and I had been using it well before we launched the Academy and spread it globally in 2019. I have been using it because I realized that people that I hired to work for me, whether they had been to interior design school or not, they did not have a comprehensive foundation of knowledge. They would come out of a 2 or even a 4-year program with 6 figures in debt and not know the correct paint finish for a basement, not know the correct paint finish for a kitchen. They didn't know how to measure a room. They didn't know the standard sizes of drapes. Basically, they could not take clients and work for me until I sent them through my own training. And for so long, for so many years, I did every part of that training for my new designers in person. It was exhausting covering the same material time and time again. And so it has been liberating to put this material on videos because now I can just have my trainees, whether they're working for me or whether they're trying to work for themselves in the academy, watch these videos and learn everything that they need to know. And then I can just test their knowledge. That being said, some employees who attempt to work for me as designers don't always do their homework. And I can tell because they come to me when we have an in-person day like we had today, and they don't know how to use the software that we use. They don't know how to measure for an appropriate rug size for the room. They don't know how much space is needed around a dining table in terms of the rug size, but also in terms of spatial relationships at the wall. Oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. But this trainee that I'm training right now is amazing. And I have been so impressed with her journey, and she asks really insightful questions that I knew would be interesting for you guys. Before I dig into the questions that she's been asking, I am going to tell you a little bit about my clients today. A peek in my design diary. So my first client today was in Hoboken, New Jersey. They were a couple, they appeared to be relatively newly married, but it's unclear. I don't always get into it. Sometimes it's revealed and sometimes it's not. But they were moving into a brand new apartment, the first one they've ever owned. And essentially they were coming from a space or a previous life where they've only used IKEA and hand-me-down furniture. They're really excited to invest. I'm working on their living dining area, and we've got a budget of between $12,000 and $15,000. They need everything. They're starting from scratch. And I will say something that I'm seeing a lot of is that people are heavily gravitating towards beige and cream furniture. And sages, olives, and emeralds are back, baby. Nobody wants blue anymore, which was the most popular color for the first 20 years I was in business. Everybody only wants green, shades of green. It's shocking. Luckily, it's very on trend and it's everywhere in the stores these days. So it's a very easy request to accommodate. The other thing that everybody wants is the slatted or fluted wood. Oh my gosh. And everybody wants it to be either the light colored wood, like a white birch, or a natural oak or walnut. But the light colors are certainly the winner. And of course, those brasses and golds are still ruling the moment. People are wanting those exclusively. I can tell you this is what's going to look dated in 5 years. That's for sure, because it is such a look. It's like Studio McGee, where everything was white, black, and woven. And now that looks really like modern farmhouse, which is super dated, along with shiplap and other things like that. So this is another thing that we will see die down in 5 years or less. Let me just say, I think it's going to be less. But I'm excited to dig in right now. I like the aesthetic. Everybody's wanting to keep it light and bright. Everybody is wanting very moody lighting. Everybody wants like this warm yellow orange glow. And I think that's because ChatGPT. They're all making inspiration photos on ChatGPT. They're all finding photos on Pinterest or online that have been made with AI. And that sepia tone hue that washes over all the images is just becoming something that people want to live with. I personally don't love living in that kind of dim, warm light. I feel like it's difficult to take pictures. I feel like it's difficult to read books. I feel like it's difficult to get a real read on anything because it's such atmospheric, moody, soupy lighting. I used to live in an apartment in Brooklyn, and all the overhead lights had these really yellow bulbs. I know we could have changed them, but we had two kids under the age of 2 and we were tired. So we didn't change the bulbs. But it felt like living in chicken noodle soup. It felt like every night I came home and just swam in a big bowl of chicken noodle soup. And all my pictures reflect that from that time. Everybody has like this kind of yellow jaundice glow. So I think I might be having a reaction to that, but I'm happy to give it to other people. Anyway, they were very sweet and see if this applies to you in any way. They had seen the apartment with the previous owner's furniture in a previous formation. And then as they were looking to buy this apartment, they saw pictures from before that owner lived there. And the furniture layout was exactly the same as the current owners had. So the only way they've seen the layout of this living dining room is one configuration with a sectional basically splitting this large room in the middle with its long arm. Now, I actually thought that was a really good way to divide the space. It provided a lot of functionality. However, I wanted them to flip it so that the arm faced the opposite wall. And they were really struggling to get on board with that because it wasn't anything they could envision. Now, I really try and help my clients envision what I see when I'm in the space. Of course, I use a floor plan software and I'm showing it to them in real time, letting them know, look, this dimension is a lot bigger than that dimension. We can have a deeper living room. We can have a bigger amount of space for those armchairs you're hoping for. We can do more when it's flipped. But I'm also using my body in the space and I'm encouraging them to walk in the middle of the space and kind of sit on the pretend sectional and get a sense for what that's going to feel and look like. These clients did all of that and still they couldn't lose the image of the previous owner's formation. And what I told them was, I'm going to send you both floor plans and you can really think about it and really weigh the pros and cons. And it's not like they didn't see all the pros with the new layout. It's just they really were so stuck in this is the way it's going to be. They had no layout questions for me initially, but I always do my due diligence and ask myself, is this truly the best layout for the space? Let's explore it together. And it was during that exploration that we discovered that the opposite layout provided a lot more space in the living room. Anyway, we'll see what they decide. And then my second client also had real difficulty imagining her space a different way, but she had difficulty for a different reason. So I went to Chelsea. It's a mom, dad, and son all living in a one-bedroom apartment. For the past 18 years, the parents have been sleeping in the living room on a pull-out sofa, and the son took over the bedroom, and he had like a very spacious bedroom. But they had like a lot of built-in, well, they weren't built in, they were the PAX closet systems. So they look built in the fact that they're very big and fill entire walls, but they actually weren't built in. Anyway, I digress. So she had been in the space for over 30 years. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Over 30 years. And she had tried lots of different permutations and configurations in the space, but she really couldn't envision changing the layout of the storage or really even of the bed. So, as much as we tried to explore new options, there were so many storage needs, and she's just glad to finally be in that room because her son is now going to college. And so she gets to reclaim the bedroom that was hers before she had a spouse, before she had a kid. And she's really excited. She said that he's leaving, but the one silver lining she mentioned is that she gets to reclaim her bedroom. However, there's so much storage that it's going to be really decadent and going to feel really amazing to get her off that full size sleeper sofa with her husband and get her into an actual bed with nightstands and wall lamps. But it was so funny. They've been compromised for so long. She was like, well, we talked about it, and my husband doesn't need a nightstand because he isn't living with a nightstand now. I'm the only one who's using the living room end table as my nightstand. And it's like, just because you are living that way now doesn't mean you should live like that in the future. If you're going to really embrace reclaiming this room and you want a decadent oasis now that it's all yours, let's give you some things that make it feel a little more luxurious that come at a very small footprint and price tag, like a nightstand. So I kind of insisted. I was like, let's just be big girls and boys and get two nightstands and a normal size bed. Maybe we could get a queen. And she was like, well, we like to cuddle. And I think that is so romantic. I mean, I like to cuddle my husband too, but I need a king. And yeah, I also need my personal space. I admire a couple who can snuggle up in a full and be perfectly content when you could actually fit a queen. Anyway, there we go. Now, on that second client, my new trainee, Amy, was shadowing me. And so she had some questions throughout the training process. And I'm excited to dig in and kind of share some answers today. So, these questions didn't necessarily come in today's session, but I've been compiling her questions from all the training days. And I'm really excited to say that in 2 weeks or so, she should be taking her very own clients with Uploft Interior Design. Yay! But she asked about when should I when should I prioritize symmetry versus function in a layout? Okay, first of all, let me say that I never prioritize symmetry. Symmetry is a nice to have, but it is never for me a must have. I am not obsessed with symmetry. I had a client the other day and she's like, Betsy, I'm OCD. I need everything to be symmetrical. I do not have that problem. A lot of times doing something symmetrical prevents us from having functionality. For instance, for the client I was just speaking about who wanted two nightstands, you're thinking to yourself, Betsy, that's symmetry. Yes. But I was also thinking if we had to, we could give her a tall chest or even two, well, yeah, the tall chest on one side and a nightstand on the other side so that each person had a surface near their side of the bed, but it wasn't symmetrical. One of the surfaces would be higher, the top of a chest, and the other would be lower, the top of a nightstand. And when I'm thinking about illuminating a living room and I'm trying to put lighting on either side of a sofa, I typically like a nice big floor lamp on one side because I get a broader swath of illumination, and then an end table and an end table lamp on the other side. Now, once again, that is not symmetrical, but it does add more function in terms of better illuminating the room. I also, of course, am always drawn to two end tables flanking the sofa and two lamps that are symmetrical. It's just never a must, in my opinion. Now, the next question that Amy asked is, how do I know if my first layout is good enough or should I keep pushing? So, what I do is I try every possible layout in a room. I really start with a blank canvas and I layer in the objects in the floor plan in order of priority, weighing the pros and cons of their placements so that I really leave no stone unturned. And I know with confidence we've evaluated every floor plan and we've chosen this one because X, Y, Z. I always like to have at least two floor plan options. I never like to lock in prematurely on one option. And when I'm working with a client and we only have one option that they're excited about, I get nervous because I know even small restricted spaces have possibilities. And I ask myself, have we prematurely jumped to a conclusion? Also, I think it's really instructional to see a floor plan that works, that one that you feel pretty good about, and then to work on a floor plan that almost works or that maybe doesn't quite work as well. So that way you can feel even more confident about that first choice. I'm going to liken this to dating. It's kind of like if you only date one person and marry them and you feel all those good feelings, right? You're like, this is the one. I've known him since junior high. I'm into him. We are together. Let's lock in. That's a valid feeling, and you might be totally right. But sometimes dating other people who were close but not quite gives you more confidence in that high school sweetheart. So you can go back to the junior high or high school sweetheart and say, hey, I've compared you to other people. You are my preferred layout. Oh gosh, there's some, yeah, anyway. Okay. We won't go there, but that could be a play on words. Or you're my preferred person, and I have seen other things and I have considered other options, and I want you. And for me, who dated literally hundreds of people in New York City, I needed that to have confidence in my choice. I did not marry my high school sweetheart, by the way, thank goodness. Anyway, um, but I think it also gives me confidence as a designer to fully explore another option that could have worked, but see how much better the final solution is. All right, next question. Why is starting simple better than over designing too early? I always think it's good to just start with those primary functions. To not get too enamored with layering in a rug or deciding where the art should go before all the core pieces, the sofa, the dining table, the desk, the accent chairs are placed. That has to happen first. A lot of times my clients are asking me while we're placing these core pieces, Betsy, what color do you think that armchair is going to be? Or do you think that bookcase is going to have doors or open shelves? Or do you think those dining chairs are going to have arms or be armless? I'm not thinking about any of those details. I want to start simple. I want to start with my core ideas And once everything is locked in, then I'm going to think about those nuances. And then I'm going to get sort of very designerly. Speaking of which, guys, I'm cutting this episode a little short because I have to go work on a project for a client. Where were they located? Oh my gosh, it's all a blur. Ah, New Jersey, Verona, New Jersey. A house in Verona, and we're doing their primary bedroom and their guest room. And they want them both to have a beautiful hotel feel. They want them to be very mid-century modern. I'm really excited to dive in. It's rare that I do two bedrooms for a project rather than like living, dining, and a bedroom. So it's fun to think about how I'm going to make these two bedrooms different and what the mood boards will look like. But all that is to say, I've got a lot going on tonight. So it's been great chatting with you. I want you to send in your questions. If you have general questions like the ones I just answered from Amy, if you have questions about becoming an interior designer or about the Uploft Interior Design Academy, feel free to write me. But if you also are working on design projects in your own home and have questions, just head over to uploft.com/podcast. Once again, that's uploft.com/podcast. There's a form, you'll fill it out, you'll get it to me, and I'll solve your design dilemmas on the air. Until next week, bye. A big thanks to our producer Jeremy Young and to Aton and the Embassy for our theme music. And shout out to our parent company, Uploft Interior Design, your trusted source for expert interior design. Visit uploft.com to explore our services and book a consultation with one of our talented designers. If you're enjoying the Uploft Interior Design podcast, please support us by sharing the show with friends and leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. It's the best way to help new listeners find us. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week with more pro tips and pop culture dish.